to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rahakadash, double honors to the elders and apostles, chiefly of Great Millstone who rule well. Yahweh is the name of the Heavenly Father, it means He is. Yahweh Shai is the name of His Son, it means He is who saves. Rahakadash is the name of the Holy Spirit in Hebrew. Maccabees, man. We're on the third day of 7th day feast of Hanukkah. Some people say 12 days, but I think it's 7 days. We all understand that the menorah has 7 candles, as prophesied in Daniel, being in the midst of the 7 candlesticks. And someone else talking about, some other scripture talking about 3 candles on each side and 1 in the middle. Let me find that. No, I'm going to stick with my Maccabees. I'm going through Maccabees. Maccabees 1 and 5 is our next one. Now, when the nations round about heard that the altar was built and the sanctuary renewed as before, it displeased them very much. Wherefore they thought to destroy the generation of Jacob that was among them, and thereupon began to slay and destroy the people. So, sometimes your strength can be something that people find so intimidating that rather than protecting you, it becomes something that lays you open to attack, makes you more likely to be attacked because it's a bit like, nobody really, whenever someone has a fly, a bee in their house, people got to kill it because they know that bee can sting them, right? So they kind of go all out against, whereas they might leave a fly. When there's a bee in the house, it's got to get killed because it's got that strength, that power. Wherefore they thought to destroy the generation of Jacob that was among them, and thereby began to slay and destroy the people. So, the different Gentiles or the different Israelites living in a gentle state of mind in their other places start to get killed because they can see that Jacob is a strong nation. Then Judah fought against the children of Esau in Idumea at Arbentim because they besieged Gael. Oh, that Gaul. That's interesting. Abatin, Gaul. I bet that's Gaul. That seems like Gaelic and Gaul. Seems like someplace in Europe. See if I can find that. What's that? And we can see that Gael is seen in France. What? No. Looks like the UK, but I don't think that's quite correct. Anyway, carrying on. And he gave them great overthrow and abated their courage and took their spoils. Also, he remembered the injury of the children of Bean, who had been a snare and an offence unto the people, and in that they lay in wait for them in the ways. He shut them up, therefore, in their towers and encamped against them and destroyed them utterly. So to shut them up means to besiege, I think, and burn the towers almost unto death, because and burn the towers of the place with to surround maybe, and burn the towers to the place with fire and all that were therein. Afterwards, he passed over the children of Ammon, where he found a mighty power and much people with Timotheus, their captain. So he fought many battles with them, till at length they were discomfited before him, and he smote them. And when he had taken Jazer and the towns belonging thereto, he returned into Judea. Then the heathen that were at Galad assembled themselves together against the Israelites in their quarters to destroy them, but they fled to the fortress of Dathema, and sent letters unto Judas and his brethren, and the heathen that are round about us sent letters unto Judas and his brethren. The heathen that are round about us are assembled together against us to destroy us, and they are preparing to come and take the fortress whereunto we have fled, Timotheus being the captain of their host. So the Israelites fled to the fortress of Dathomir, but then because because the heathen were around about them. But then they got a letter out to Judas and his brethren, and the heathen that are around about us assembled together to destroy us. And they're preparing to come and take the fortress whereunto we fled. Timotheus, being the captain of their hosts, come now therefore and deliver us from their hands, for many of us are slain. Yea, all our brethren that were in the places of Tobi are put to death. Their wives and their children also there have carried away captive and borne away their stuff, and they've destroyed there about 1,000 men. So what's really interesting is that how on the onset of war, the merchants will come, when they see a siege taking place, because they're going to take, buy slaves, buy the captured people. They're ready to buy the captured people and take them off to another place. So the slave trade, there was going on, man. Yeah, but not the transatlantic slave trade. Yeah, all the brethren that were in the places right, and borne away their stuff, and they have destroyed there about 1,000 men. While these letters were yet reading, behold, there came other messengers from Galilee with their clothes rent, who reported on this wise. And they said that Ptolemais and of Tyrus and of Sidon and of Galilee of the Gentiles are assembled together against us to consume us. So Judas is getting all these letters, man. Like, yo, help me out here. No, these guys are coming after me here, man. You gotta help me out. And he's getting letters from other places. No, they're all over me, over here, man. Help me out. So he's getting all these different things coming from different directions. Now, when Judas and the people heard these words, they assembled a great congregation together to consult what they should do for their brethren that were in trouble, and assorted of them. Then said Judas unto Simon his brother, choose thee out men, and go and deliver thy brethren that are in Galilee, for I and Jonathan my brother will go to the country of Galilee. So they split up. So he left Joseph, the son of Zacharias, and Azarias, captains of the people, with the remnant of the host in Judea to keep it. So he left a few people left over, just to guard Judea itself. Unto whom he gave commandment, saying, take ye the charge of this people, and see that ye make not war against the heathen until the time that we come again. So don't start anything, because, boy, we ain't going to have enough people here to finish it. Now unto Simon were given 3,000 men to go to Galilee, and unto Judas 8,000 men for the country of Galilee. Then went Simon to Galilee, where he fought many battles with the heathen, so that the heathen were discomfited by him. And he pursued them unto the gate of Ptolemais. And there were slain of the heathen about 3,000 men, whose spoils he took. And those that were in Galilee and in Arbatas, with their wives and their children, all that he had, took he away with them, and brought them into Judea with great joy. Judas Maccabeus, also his brother Jonathan, went over to Jordan and travelled 3 days' journey in the wilderness, where they met the Nabathites. He came unto them in a peaceable manner, and told them everything that had happened to their brethren in the land of Galilee, and how many of them were shut up in Bozrah and Bosor and Alima and Casphor and Maked and Carnaim, and all their cities are strong and great, and that they were shut up in the rest of the cities of the country of Galilee, and against tomorrow that they had appointed to bring their host against the forts and take them, and to destroy them all in one day. Hereupon Judas and his host turned suddenly by the way of the wilderness unto Bozrah, and when he had won the city, he slew all the males with the edge of the sword, and took all their spoils, and burned the city with fire, from whence he removed by night, and went till he came to the fortress. And betimes in the morning they looked up, and behold, there was an innumerable people bearing ladders and other engines of war to take the fortress, for they assaulted them. When Jesus therefore saw that the battle was begun, and that the cry of the city went up to heaven with trumpets and a great sound, he said unto his host, fight this day for your brethren. So he went forth behind them in 3 companies, who sounded their trumpets and cried with the prayer. So let's just try and figure out what's going on here. So he slew all his hosts, and then he left at night and went until he came to the fortress. And this fortress, I believe, was a fortress where the Israelites were. And when Judas therefore saw And betimes in the morning they looked up, and behold, there was an innumerable people bearing ladders and other engines of war to take the fortress, for they assaulted them. And when Judas therefore saw the battle was begun, the cry of the city went up to heaven with his trumpets. He said, "Fight for this day for your brethren." So he went forth behind them in 3 companies, who sounded their companies and cried with prayer. Then the host of Timotheus, knowing that it was Maccabeus, fled from him. Wherefore he smote them with a great slaughter, so that there were killed of them about 8,000 men. This done, Judas turned aside to Maspha. So Judas be taking out the trash. This done, Judas turned aside to Maspha, and after he had assaulted it, he took and slew all the males therein, and received the spoils thereof, and burnt it with fire. From thence went he and took Casphon, Maghed, and Bossa, and the other cities of the country of Galaad. After these things gathered Timotheus another host, and encamped against Raphon beyond the brook. So Judas sent men to espy the host, who brought him word, saying, All the heathen that be round about us are assembled unto them, even a very great host. He hath hired Arabians to help him, and they have pitched their tents beyond the brook, ready to come and fight against him. Upon this Judas went to meet them. Judas be on it. Then Timotheus said unto the captains of the host, When Judas and his host come near the brook, if he pass over first unto us, we shall not be able to withstand him, for he will mightily prevail against us. But if he be afraid and camp beyond the river, we shall go over unto him and prevail against him. Now when Judas came near the brook, he caused the scribes of the people to remain by the brook until he gave the commandment, saying, Suffer no man to remain in the camp, but let all come to battle. So Timotheus is trying to figure out by where Judas camps, whether he's going to be scared. A brook, I think, is like a little river, right? A little bubbling stream. If he doesn't mind having the river behind him, that means he's feeling confident, and that he's going to be strong. He's going to be he's really feeling himself. But if he camps on the other side of the river, then it means maybe he's feeling a bit worried, and we can beat him. Now when Judas came near the brook, he caused the scribes of the people to remain by the brook, until whom he gave the commandment, saying, Suffer no man to remain in the camp, but let them all come to battle. So he went first over unto them, and all the people after him. Then all the heathen, being discomfited before him, cast away their weapons and fled. So because he went over the brook, then he thought he is really feeling himself, and they ran to the temple that was at Carnaim. But they took the city and burned the temple and all that was therein. Thus was Carnaim subdued, neither could they stand any longer before Judas. Then Judas gathered together all the Israelites who were in the country Galaad, from the least to the greatest, even their wives and their children, and their stuff, a very great host, to the end that they might come into the land of Judea. Now when they came to Ephron, this was a great city in the way they should go, very well fortified, that they should not turn from it, either to the right hand or the left, but needs must pass through the midst of it. Then they of the city shut them out and stopped up the gates with stones, whereupon Judas sent unto them in a peaceful manner, saying, Let us pass through your land to go to our country, into our own country, and none shall do you any hurt. We will only pass through on foot. Howbeit they would not open unto him. Wherefore Judas commanded a proclamation to be made throughout the host, that every man should pitch his tent in the place where he was. So the soldiers pitched and assaulted the city that day, and all that night, till at length the city was delivered into his hands. Who then slew all the males with the edge of the sword, and razed the city, and took the spoils thereof, and passed through the city over them that were slain. After this they went over to Jordan in the great plain before Bethsan. And Judas gathered together those that came behind, and exhorted the people all the way through till they came into the land of Judea. So he's driving them, man. He's like, let's go, let's get back to Judea. He's really building this city, man. So when they went up to the Mount Sion with joy and gladness, they were offered burnt offerings, because not one of them was slain until they had returned in peace. So the Lord kept them all. Now, what time, as Judas and Jonathan were in the land of Galaad, and Simon and his brother Galilee before the Ptolemaios, Joseph, the son of Zacharias, and Azarias, captains of the garrisons, heard of the valiant acts and warlike deeds which they had done. Wherefore they said, let us get us a name, and go and fight the heathen that are round about us. So when they had given charge unto the garrison that was with them, they went towards Jamnia. Then came Georgius and his men out of the city to fight against them. And so it was that Joseph and Azarias were put to flight and pursued unto the borders of Judea. So they disobeyed him and went out because they felt like, oh yeah, Judas got a name for himself, and Timotheus, is it Timotheus? Got a name for himself. So they went out to try and get a name for themselves, even though Judas had told them not to try and fight until they had returned home. And they were slain on that day of the people of Israel, about 2,000 men. So it just goes to show, man, like the Lord respects the rank and order that's been put out, among his prophets. It's not anything to play with. Thus was a great overthrow among the children of Israel, because they were not obedient unto Judas and his brethren, but thought to do some valiant act. Well, it's not valiant. I think it was more they were feeling that they wanted to, get a name for themselves. It was pride. Moreover, these men came not of the seed of those by whose hand deliverance was given unto Israel. Howbeit the man Judas and his brethren were greatly renowned in the sight of Israel, and all the heathen wheresoever their name was heard of, insomuch as all the people assembled unto them with joyful acclamations. Afterwards went Judas forth with his brethren, and fought against the children of Esau in the land towards the south, where he smote Hebron and the towns thereof, and pulled down the fortress of it, and burned the towers thereof round about. From thence he removed to go into the land of the Philistines, and passed through Samaria. For some reason the Spirit had me saying Palestine, so I wonder if that's the same. And at that time certain priests desirous to shew their value were slain in battle, for that they went out to fight unadvisedly. So other people had started to feel themselves and try and think that they could do the same thing as Judas. But even one of the things that was interesting is it talks about it's not from the same seed, like the Lord seemed to have blessed Judas and his seed to take back the city. So Judas turns, and even Judas was instructed to be, was blessed really in a sense by Maccabeus on his deathbed to be the one who takes back the city. And it seems that the Lord had honoured that blessing that he'd passed on to his children. So Judas turned to Azotus in the land of the Philistines. And when he had pulled down their altars and burned their carved images with fire and spoiled their cities, he returned to the land of Judea. First Maccabees 1:6. I'm enjoying reading these stories, bro. And at that time, King Antiochus, travelling through the high countries, heard say that Elymais in the country of Persia was a city greatly renowned for riches, silver, and gold. So this broke-ass Antiochus, who'd gone off to Persia, was to try and get some more tribute so he can raise money for an army. He's just running around trying to get handouts, bro. And that there was in this rich temple where were coverings of gold and breastplates and shields. He just craven, man. Which Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian king, so Alexander the Great, I believe, who reigned first among the Grecians, had left there. So this Antiochus is going after some of the treasures of Alexander the Great. Wherefore he came and sought to take the city and to spoil it, but he was not able, because of the city having had warning thereof, rose up against him in battle. So he fled and departed thence with great heaviness and returned to Babylon. What a bitch. Moreover, there came one who brought him tidings into Persia that the armies which went against the land of Judea were put to flight, and that Lysias, who went forth first with a great power, was driven away of the Jews, and that they were made strong by the armour and the power and store of spoils which they had gotten of the armies whom they had destroyed. Also they had pulled down the abomination which was set up upon the altar in Jerusalem. They had compassed about the sanctuary with the high walls as before, and his city Bethsura. Now when the king heard these words, he was astonished and sore moved, Upon he laid him down on his bed and fell sick for grief because it had not befallen him as he had looked for. So things didn't turn out as he wanted it. The Jews had taken back the temple, and he lost a lot of fights, even in the same time that he's trying to raise money to raise an army. And he continued for many days, for his grief was ever more and more, and he made account that he should die. Wherefore he called for all of his friends and said unto them, the sleep is gone from my eyes, and my heart faileth for very care. And I thought with myself, into what tribulation am I come, and how great a flood of misery is it, wherein now I am, for I was bountiful and beloved in my power. But now I remember the evils that I did at Jerusalem, and that I took all the vessels of gold and silver that were therein, and sent to destroy the inhabitants of Judea without cause. I perceive therefore that for this cause these troubles are come upon me, and behold, I perish through great grief in a strange land. Then he called Philip, one of his friends, whom he made ruler over his realm, and he gave him his crown and his robe and his signet, and to the end that he should bring up his son Antiochus and nourish him up for the kingdom. So Antiochus died there in the 149th year. Now when Lysias knew that the king was dead, he sent Antiochus his son, whom he had brought up being young, to reign in his stead, and his name he called Eupator. About this time they that were in the tower shut up the Israelites round about the sanctuary, and sought always their hurt and the strengthening of the heathen. Whereas Judas, purposing to destroy them, called all the people together to besiege them. So they came together and besieged them in the 150th year, and made mounts for the shot against them, and other engines. So I think it's mounts. I'm not sure. It looks like some kind of military equipment. Howbeit certain of them that were besieged got forth, unto whom some ungodly men of Israel joined themselves. So and went unto the king and said, how long will it be ere thou execute judgment and avenge our brethren? We have been willing to serve thy father and do as he would have us, and obey his commandments, for which cause they of our nation perceive the tower, and are alienated from us. Moreover, as many of us as they could light on they slew, and spoiled our inheritance. Neither have they stretched out their hand against us only, but against their borders. And behold, this day they are besieging the tower at Jerusalem to take it, the sanctuary also, and Bethsura have they fortified. Wherefore, if thou dost not prevent them quickly, they will do greater things than these, neither shalt thou be able to rule them. Now when the king heard this, he was angry, and gathered together all his friends and all the captains of his army, and those that had charge of the horse. They came unto him from other kingdoms and king isles of the sea, bands of hired soldiers, so that the number of his army was 100,000 footmen, and 20,000 horsemen, and 32 elephants exercised them. So 32 elephants, man. You ain't messing now. You're bringing out the heavy artillery in those days, man. Elephants was probably like rolling out like ICBMs, right? Then went through Idumea and pitched against Bethsura, which they assaulted many days, making engines of war. But they of Bethsura came out and burned them with fire, and fought valiantly. Upon this, Judas removed from the town and pitched in Bath Zacharias over against the king's camp. Then the king, rising very early, marched fiercely with his host towards Bath Zacharias, where his armies made them ready to battle, and sounded the trumpets. And to the end that they might provoke the elephants to fight, they shewed them the blood of grapes and mulberries. Moreover, they divided the beasts among the armies, and for every elephant they appointed 1,000 men armed with coats of mail and helmets of brass on their heads. And besides this, for every beast were ordained 500 horsemen of the best. They were ready at every occasion, wheresoever the beast was, and wheresoever the beast went, they went also, neither departed they from him. And upon the beast were strong towers of wood, which covered every one of them, and they were girt fast unto them with devices. They were also upon every one 32 strong men that had fought upon them, and beside the Indian that ruled them. As for the remnant of the horsemen, they set. So he's just laying out the structure of the military assault. As for the remnant of the horsemen, they set them on this side and that side as the two parts of the host, giving them signs what to do and being harnessed over amidst the ranks. So they really bringing out. This is it, bringing out all of their power. Now when the sun shone upon the shields of gold and brass, the mountains glittered thereof, and shined like lamps of fire. So part of the king's army being spread on the high mountains, a part of the valleys below, they marched safely and in order. Wherefore all that heard the noise of their multitude and the marching of the company and the rattling of the harness were moved, for the army was very great and mighty. Then Judas and his host drew near and entered into battle, and there were slain of the king's army 600 men. Eleazar also, surnamed Savaran, perceived that one of the beasts armed with the royal harness was higher than all the rest, and supposing that the king was upon it, put himself in jeopardy to the end that he might deliver his people and get him a perpetual name. Wherefore he ran upon him courageously through the midst of the battle, slaying on the right hand and on the left, so that they were divided from him on both sides. Which done, he crept under the elephant and thrust him under and slew him, whereupon the elephant fell down upon him, and there he died. Howbeit, the rest of the Jews, seeing the strength of the king and the violence of his forces, turned away from them. Then the king's army went up to Jerusalem to meet them, and pitched his tents against Judea and against Mount Sion. But with them that were in Bethsea he made peace, for he came out of the city, and because they had no victuals there to endure the siege, it being the year of the rest to the land. Right, so obviously there's no food because every 7th year you're supposed to give the land. There's a land Sabbath, you don't plant anything, so there's not much food there. So the king took Bethsura and set a garrison there to keep it. As for the sanctuary, he besieged it many days, and set artillery with engines and instruments to cast fire and stones and pieces, to cast darts and slings. Whereupon they also made engines against their engines, and held them battle a long season. Yet at least their vessels being without victuals, for that was the 7th year, and they in Judea were delivered from the Gentiles, and had eaten up the residue of the store. They were but a few left in the sanctuary, because the famine did also prevail against them. They were fain to disperse themselves, every man to his own place. At that time Lysias heard say that Philip, whom Antiochus the king, while he lived, had appointed to bring up his son Antiochus that he might be king, was returned out of Persia and Media, and that the king's host also went with him, and that he sought to take unto him the ruling of their affairs. Wherefore he went in all haste to the king and the captains of the host and the company, we decay daily, and our victuals are but small, and the place we lay siege upon unto is strong, and the affairs of the kingdom lie up upon us. Now therefore let us be friends with these men, and make peace with them, and with all their nation, and covenant with them, that they shall live after their laws as they did before. For these things they are therefore displeased, and having done all these things, because we abolished their laws. So the king and the princes were content. Wherefore he sent unto them to make peace, and they accepted thereof. Also the king and the princes made an oath to them, whereupon they went out of the stronghold. Then the king entered into Mount Sion, but when he saw the strength of the place, he broke his oath that he made, and gave commandment to pull down the wall round about. Afterwards he departed he all in haste, and returned unto Antiochia, where he found Philip to be the master of the city. So he fought against them and took the city by force. So this king is just, he ain't no good, man. He ain't no good. I want to carry on reading, but I'm going to cut off there. All praises to Yahweh, but Hashem Yahushai will carry on reading Maccabees the 7th, 1 and 7 tomorrow. Shalom.